It is time once again for another AEW Dynamite review here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, and not just any old AEW Dynamite review. No, we are going to review a not very good edition of AEW Dynamite. We're just getting that right out of the way. So if you are, you like to search for these Dynamite reviews that'll make you feel happy and you're like, yeah, everything was great, and you just want a good boost of serotonin to make you feel good about watching AEW. This one is not for you. Sometimes it is that. Sometimes, most of the time I feel I'm pretty fair and down, straight down the middle. But today I can't. I don't think this was a good episode of Dynamite, the November 21st, 2024 edition of Dynamite. I don't think was very good. And that is the premise of this review. It's not even a question of it wasn't very good. I think the theme of this review actually is going to be, what are we even doing here? I feel like I'm going to be repeating that in a couple of instances, and I'm not trying to be reactionary. I'm not trying to meme. I'm not trying to generate a response. But I think that if you these are the types of situations. These are the moments. This review just might end up being one of these cornerstone moments, right? The cornerstone, like a milestone in one's terrestrial existence, right? And it might be a milestone in the relationship that I have with you, the viewer, right now, whether you're a regular or whether you're popping in here for the first time. We might be confronted with an insurmountable situation here. Because if you watched last night's Dynamite, you finished it, you turned off the TV, you sat back on your couch, and you went, I enjoyed that. Then you and I we are profoundly incompatible when it comes to pro wrestling tastes. I did not see any value to the episode of Dynamite that aired last night. I just don't see it. If you were able to find pleasure in it, enjoyment, all the more power to you, but that whatever happened last night is not what I feel pro wrestling is or should be. And we were very much in WWE Junior territory. Yes, the Claudio Darby Allin match was tremendous. I loved it. Yes, the opener was great. But sometimes the great matches can save an otherwise miserable show, or a show that isn't living up to expectations. But I feel like last night, outside of those two matches, everything that happened was so bad and awkward and without any juice. Maybe I should have been saying or. How about that? That it's not even Darby Allin being thrown around by Claudio was good enough to save this show. To say, yep, this is pretty good. Not even a fun six-man with, 6 guys who are used to these types of situations and put on a very good match. Dynamic, fast-paced, hard-hitting, all the stuff that you love out of the classic multi-man AEW matches. Not even that, as well as the Claudio Darby Allin match, not even that was enough to save the day here. This was not a good show. That's all there is to it. This was not good, and we're going to get into it right now. There's the preamble. And you're allowed to disagree with me, by the way. You're agreed to hop in the comments and say, no, Warren, I actually enjoyed it. And I'll I'll probably give you the thumbs up. You know, I'll be like, But I would assume though the reason why I'm reviewing this is the reason you're listening to this review is not as much to feel validated about your own feelings, but I also think that listening to reviewers is also there's a part of that, and that's natural. But not just that, but it's also I also like to think that maybe I offer a perspective that will help you understand what, having, I want to be careful of how I approach this because I really don't want to make it sound condescending because I don't want to be condescending in my feeling, I don't want to feel like I'm talking down to anyone, but I want to share with you my standards, right? I want to share with you the level upon which I appreciate pro wrestling. And my idea then is then if you agree with that, then you're more than like, let's connect, let's build some community. Like that's ultimately the basis, right? It's like, let's gather like-minded individuals where we can have these open discussions. And again, if you enjoyed this and you want and you talk about it and we express different opinions, I don't mind that. If your opinions are well thought out and you're able to express them to me in a logical fashion where I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, then that's also part of the game too. I'm not infallible. I'm definitely not like the last word on things, but I'm going to talk about how I feel with passion and determination because that's how I feel. But I'm also open to listening to other opinions, which maybe I can understand, not necessarily agree with, but that I can understand, and we can have discussions. We can talk as opposed to just jumping in the comments and saying, you suck, LOL. Well, that's not relevant. So please don't go in the comments posting you suck, LOL, or who cares, honestly. Do whatever you want. Just do whatever you want. Let's get to it. I said 3 minutes ago we were going to start reviewing and I haven't. Classic Warren. November 20th, 2024, from the Santander Arena in Reading, Pennsylvania. According to Ye Old WrestleTix, the last update that we got, which was yesterday at the moment that I'm recording this, 2,627 tickets were distributed in this arena. It's a smaller venue, 8,800. The capacity is 8,800 for the venue. So you got about a little more than a fourth filled up. Still, like, it's still not good. Like, there's no way to go about it, right? And I saw people saying, "Oh, the audience sucked. The audience were the bad crowd brought the show down." And I'm gonna tell you, like, there are instances, right, where absolutely you get a bad crowd. That's just facts, friend. That's just a fact. But I think the show started, the crowd was excited for it, and they were into this first match. But I think AEW lost the crowd by no fault of their own. I think they just dropped the ball with the rest of this production. I'm going to tell you, if I saw this show, if I had paid money to see this show live, I would have been a little miffed. I would have been a little pissed off. I don't think this was a good time live. I completely understand how this crowd just completely zoned out at some point, because it did feel like that. It did feel like they were just sitting down and waiting for the show to end at some point. And then they had, what was it? They had the Rampage beforehand or after, or a bit of both. Anyway, it was the venue debut, so we don't have a comp. Right? Yeah. It was the venue debut. So we can compare it to the last time they were there. But Eesh. And you know, we're gonna talk about it on stream probably later today when we which is when we're you know, if you're listening to this on the Thursday, I'm going to be streaming later on today on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. So pop in if you feel like it. But we'll be talking about AEW's decision to run smaller venues, something that a lot of us have been clamoring for a while. And some of the venues, anyway, we'll talk about it later. But you know, the spoiler alert, it's a good idea, especially if you're like, they're struggling to put 3,000 people in buildings recently. Like it's not good. It's not good for the show, for the feel, for the vibe, for the live audience, for the wrestlers. It's good for no one. Anyway, to the show, which opens up with the with an edited version of the November Rain video, which is tremendous. Don't get me wrong. I saw the whole thing. They aired the whole thing. Was it Collision or like, I get confused sometimes. I think it was on Collision, right? That they aired the whole thing, and I was surprised that they aired the whole thing. I thought they were gonna like do an edited version, but no. Tony was like, "Yeah, we're gonna do the whole thing," and I was like, that's pretty dope. And if anything, right, the November Rain video just confirmed what I've been saying for a short while now, that everything in AEW has a story now. People who say there are no stories in AEW are just like, it's objectively false. It's just people who don't watch the show and who don't care and who don't keep up on it, and they're just bad faith and are just repeating talking points from 12 months ago at this point, 24 months ago. Everything on this show, everything on this pay-per-view has a story, from the lower card to the lower card all the way to the top. They even have the story set up for the fucking Costco guys, right? They've got stories for everything. And the November Rain video proved that, like, objectively demonstrated that fact that AEW is nothing but stories. So, for good or ill, don't get me wrong. Like, I've never been that bothered with the quote unquote lack of stories. Sometimes I feel like you can just have cool wrestling matches without having prequels, dozens of prequels and setup and all sorts of twists and turns set up before it. Sometimes you can just have a cool match and it doesn't bother me. Never did bother me. But I can understand that, people want the stories. There's a lot of them. They're everywhere. So, there, again, for good or ill. Where was I going with this? Yeah, no, so the November Rain video airs, and considering what we got in the rest of the show, I think Tony should have taken up a full quarter hour and just aired the whole 18 minutes and what is it, 57 seconds, something like that? November Rain? 57, 58, 57, I think. He should have aired the whole thing. He should have just taken up a whole quarter hour. The opening quarter hour should have been that, considering a lot of the slop we gotten on the rest of the show. This should have been, anyway. Don Callis family trio of Kyle. What am I talking about? Not a trio. Have I been saying this was a 6-man? I just realized I've been calling this a 6-man in my little opening rant. That's how discombobulated I am. It's not a 6-man. It's an 8-man tag. So the team of Kyle Fletcher, Lance Storm, Brian Cage, and Konosuke Takeshita defeated Will Ospreay, Ricochet, Powerhouse, Hobbs, and Mark Davis in, I often talk about the tradition, the AEW tradition of having, great multi-man matches. Well, it continues here. I thought this was a lot of fun. I gave it a 3.5 stars out of the 5. I think maybe the thing that annoyed me is that they did the Powerhouse Hobbs knee thing, which took him out of the match for a good portion of it. But I don't know how annoyed I can be when he returned, when he hobbled back. It's it's not as much. Let's finish up the one thing at a time. God, I want to say too many things. I really want to say too many things at once. So it's, Hobbs gets injured out and he gets carried to the back. And then he later on in the match, so the team is at a deficit, right? 4-on-3. And then he eventually comes back, gets into the ring hobbling, right? And gets the hot tag, and he has a great hot tag, and the crowd is into it. And this is ultimately, like, this is the kind of stuff that Will Hobbs needs. I can't be too mad at it because it was successful. But it's just something that, I don't know, I've seen so many times in pro wrestling, and I'm like, when he got carried out, it's like, oh, he's gonna come back, isn't he? He's gonna come back, and he did, but it worked. I thought his hot tag was very good. His basically his one-legged comeback was a lot of fun, and you have Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis having a confrontation. Again, it's not super physical. Like, Kyle Fletcher is not like dropping him on his head or anything. He just slapped him, and that incensed Mark Davis, started punching him. But, I'm still maintaining that Mark Davis is probably going to end up heading over to the Don Callis family. I think there's, I think there's still stuff here that's going to happen. Kyle Fletcher pulls Mark Davis in front of a hidden blade, which allows Konosuke Takeshita to win off of some friendly fire there. I thought it was fun. Yeah, I was like, oh, so we're in for a fun one tonight. Oh geez, oh boy, if I would go back to tell past Warren, don't get your hopes up, buddy. Don't get your hopes up. But I enjoyed it. Like, did I say it 3.5 stars? I think I did. That's how much I liked it. I thought it was quite a good match. Good. The Death Riders cut a promo backstage, while Wheeler Yuta looks like a hostage, just sitting there, unfazed, unblinking. We understand. Like, here's the other thing, is that we understand he's likely being manipulated, brainwashed. We get it. Commentary talks about it. Every time he comes out, sitting there looking like he's been brainwashed. Like, you don't have to hammer us over the head with it. We are smart, intelligent people. At least most of us are. We're able to figure this one out. Okay. Claudio John cuts a promo on Orange Cassidy and Darby, and Claudio cuts a promo in German. Not beating the Nazi allegations. The thing about Brian Alvarez saying that, the movie was based off of some old Russell Crowe. Was it Russell Crowe movie? Like, where he's about Nazis or something like that? Whatever. So we're not beating those allegations with this promo here. And then the camera changes to Darby arriving at the building saying, I'm going to get you guys, or something. Yeah, not terrible, but not, not super inspired either. Just, stuff that you're like, oh, okay. And especially with the way it's produced, you're like, okay, just a little overly produced. Hype reel for the Continental Classic is broadcast, and I'm telling you, the C2 cannot come too soon. It's starting this Wednesday, and it's funny, right? Because we were in the same spot last year, or at least, okay, I wouldn't say the same spot, but last year at this same time, there was a lot of fatigue in regards to AEW's direction and their stories, and people were cautiously looking forward to the Continental Classic. It was Tony Khan with the infamous "put their money where their mouth is" line from the presser and all that. So, everyone was sort of waiting for it with, bated breath, or ready to chop it down. And it turned out to be tremendous. It was a ratings success. It was a critical success, a success up and down the board. Ratings, quarter hours were up for Continental Classic matches. The punditry as myself, couldn't get enough of it. Thought it was great. So, we're kind of in the same spot where I feel like there's a lot of, a lot of people having thoughts where it's like, well, what's going on with AEW feels kind of off, what's going on type of thing. And now and now everyone's sort of turning to the Continental Classic as a salve here to be like, okay, thank God, we're actually going to get some great ass pro wrestling moving forward here. I hope so. I legitimately hope so. I hope the C2 stays true to itself, or improves upon last year, which was already very good. Anyway, we talked about it on stream a little bit. I don't want to necessarily repeat myself, but when it comes to the lull this year, as opposed to last year where it was like, where, you had the Timeless Tony Storm stuff, which was not universally accepted, right? It wasn't, a lot of people did love the gimmick, and I understand why. I didn't care for it because it affected how Tony Storm was wrestling. It affected her in-ring work. And Tony Storm is possibly one of the best pro wrestlers in North America right now. She's absolutely one of the best women pro wrestlers out there. And because of the gimmick, then she started doing nonsense, getting on Luther's shoulders and, all sorts of stupid gimmickry where you're like, no, let the woman wrestle. This is what makes her special. This is what makes her good. But the gimmick was getting in the way, so that annoyed me. And I've always been consistent on that. But on top of it all, it was the brochachos. It was the stuff between Adam Cole and MJF, which wasn't good. It just was not good. And I think effectively drove fans away. I legitimately, I don't think it's the only thing, but in an environment where there was already CM Punk fatigue and brawl out fatigue, and people were already like very annoyed about what was going on with AEW. On top of that, their way to respond to this was to give us some like ridiculous schlock that wasn't very good. I think a lot of fans were just extremely down on AEW. Whereas this year, I don't think it's as severe. I think we're all in a lull, but that's because and that's because the stars are not there. And last night I was on the Bob Culture podcast, shout out, and I was listening to the very wise Bill Bodkin. Shout out Bill. You should follow him on Blue Sky, by the way, at Bill Bodkin. And Bill was theorizing that one of the reasons that we might be in this lull right now, that it feels soft like this, is because the stars are not there. MJF is working remotely, which I thought was funny. But, Kenny is not there. Samoa Joe is not there. Adam Copeland is not there. Like the acts that are established and really electrify the audience are just not around. And I think that's why things feel a little off right now. Now you can you have Will Ospreay, you've got Mox, but it's two guys in two programs holding up a bunch of other stuff, and it's not it's not stuff that's captivating the imagination because their opponents are not top guys. So right now we're dealing with an AEW that has a lot of that's basically built around the mid card, and I forgot to mention Swerve. I don't want to leave Swerve out of this, but and you see, like, I consider the Swerve Bobby Lashley thing to be one of the hottest things they have. Like, I think right now there's two hot feuds in AEW, and it's Ospreay and Fletcher and Lashley and Swerve. I think those are the two truly hot feuds. The Death Rider storyline is fine, but I think it's really only going to come to fruition when the OG Elite get back together to fight them off, right? When Kenny comes back, when the Bucks come back, when Hangman realigns with them. I think that's when it finally becomes a thing, right? That's when I think it's going to reach the next level because it's fine right now, but it's Mox fighting off mid-carders, it's like, that's pretty much what it is. And they're talented, they're good, but it's not making for some compelling TV. And I think that's what the issue is right now. I think that's why Full Gear feels a little cold, a little soft, and not the most exciting card they've put together this year. I'm talking build, of course. We're talking build. I'm not talking about quality of matches. Well, because it still has all the opportunities to be a good show, but I'm talking about the build to get there. You're not excited. I haven't met anyone who says, yeah, hell yeah, man, I am locked in, super excited for Full Gear 2024 this year. I haven't heard anyone say that. No, I don't think anyone is truly saying that. Everything is very mitigated. Everything is like, yeah, I think it's going to be good despite everything. It's like there's always a bit of caveating in regards to this show this year. I don't think anyone is excited. And I think that's, one of the reasons being, well, it's the mid-carders that are holding up the company right now. And then you get what you get. Anyway, the Continental Classic. That's going to be fun. I'm excited. I'm excited for that. That'll be a good time. Rene Paquette is outside with the Hurt Syndicate, and he says that Bobby Lashley, turns out, is going to be in action tonight. So that's interesting. And then out of nowhere flies in Swerve Strickland, who sort of strikes Lashley, and the camera work per usual in AEW is not great, and we don't quite see that he has a chain wrapped around his fist. Commentary has to put it over. I think the sound that made sounded like Swerve has a chain. They had to cover for it. Anyway, so this is all setting up for, it's a bad omen for Bobby Lashley and the Hurt Syndicate. And that's right. It's fine. Adam Cole hits the ring, and anyway, this begins a back-to-back. This starts off back-to-back segments that I cannot comprehend here. I don't understand. Like this is also tepid. And look, he comes out and he says, and he's got a smile on his face, and he's saying, you know what? I couldn't make it to fight Max last week, but Roderick Strong is going to be there, and G. Willikers, he's going to make it, and I'm going to support him, and go Rod, And I'm like, why aren't you disappointed? Why aren't you mad? Why aren't you mad at this? This is I don't know if you recall when I used to review for those of you who were around at the time, when I was at Fightful and I was doing the reviews for WWE shows, one of my constant criticisms was that WWE guys and gals never got upset when bad things happen to them, right? They get screwed out of a win, they lose via, silly means or whatever, and then they'd show up on Raw the next night or the next week, and they'd be blowing it off. They'd have a big smile on their face, and they'd just be smug about it. And everyone was smug. That was the basic default attitude. It's like smug. No one got mad. Like my principal criticism was when Drew McIntyre got screwed out of the I don't know which title it was, the Universal title, the WWE title. I don't remember which one he had. Right, this was in pandemic era, and he got screwed out of it with the Miz and this Hurt Syndicate. It was like something like that. Look, it doesn't matter. He gets screwed out of his title, and he loses the belt, right? And the next week on Raw, he's just standing there and he's doing, he's charming, smirking, handsome Drew McIntyre that we all know, and that's his basic thing, right? But if I got fucked over like he did, I'd figure I'd be hitting the ring and I'd be throwing tables, I'd be, shoving people around, I'd be requesting matches, I'd be, just show some fucking fire, right? Just show us an emotion that is different than, Oh, it's all right, guys. Because everyone was like that. I'm assuming they still are today. Like nothing seems like they're all made of Teflon. Nothing sticks. So I see Adam Cole come out and he's like, man, let's go. I'm like, bullshit, man. You got screwed out of a pay-per-view match where you lost out on the pay-per-view bonus, brother, because of MJF. Be mad. Be angry. Be disappointed. Be sad. Don't be like, yeah, Roddy's going to do it. It's like, why is it so hard to try and get these people to convey like some passion, some emotion, some fire? Right? Now, I understand that now Kyle O'Reilly comes out to set up the rest of this angle here, or the next pivot of this angle. Where it's like, he says, stop sending your friends out there to fight for you. Look, he says, you have to stop with this obsession with MJF. You see, your friends, they love you, they care for you, and they're going to go out there and fight for you. They're putting themselves in danger. But then I'm like, these are pro wrestlers. They're like, they're always in danger regardless. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, they're always fighting for something. Kyle, it's fine. He's going to fight because he's a professional fighter. Roderick Strong is getting paid to fight. It's fine, baby. Don't worry about it. But this leads ultimately to Kyle saying, MJF is an evil bastard. You've never been as evil as him, and that's a good thing, kind of thing, right? And that sort of leaves Adam Cole once again pensive. That's how he's ended most of his promos since he's come back. He's just standing there like staring, conflicted, where you see the gears turning. It's like anything else at this point, anything else. This really and it was awkward. They decided to do this in the middle of the ring. And I've realized that at this point, people pop for the song because the Adam Cole song and the entrance, it's just like in WWE. If people pop for the entrance, they do the Adam Cole baby thing, they do the boom, and that's it. And then after that, crickets. Then it's like Adam Cole, who cares? I don't feel any crowd investment into this. I'm not invested into this. This was a very awkward, tepid in-ring segment that led to the Orange Cassidy promo backstage, which was also awkward and tepid, and convinced me that this is not the way. And we have to. I'm hopefully once the pay-per-view is over, we're done with Moxley and Orange Cassidy. That hopefully Darby Allin will be the challenger of the month after, because there's really no reason for this. And if anything, Mark Briscoe shows he should have been the guy, right? Anyway, because Cassidy's there saying, no, I got to do this alone. And he's another guy where he's like, my friends go out there and they get hurt, so I don't want you guys to get hurt. Now, I understand. You don't have to explain to me what the motivations are. I understand what the motivations are. Orange Cassidy doesn't want any more of his friends going out there and getting Pillmanized because of him or because of whatever. And he prefers to be injured himself as opposed to letting others get injured. And that is a beautiful babyface trait. And I understand it. The execution is not compelling. The execution is kind of tepid. It's lukewarm because Orange is not supposed to show fire. He's not supposed to be like the, and let's be honest, I don't think anyone is ever going to accuse Orange Cassidy of being a great promo. I think sometimes he's very good, sometimes he's not, and most of the time he's like somewhere in the middle, and last night he was not, just like he wasn't good last week either. So ultimately, I think this is not good. Like the build to this first title defense for Mox has not been great, but it lies in the booking. It lies in the choice of They should have started with Darby. They should have started with Darby, because Darby, everything he's done in this Death Rider buildup has all been compelling and people are into it. They lock onto it and it's like, yeah, let's go. Darby should have been the first guy. And then maybe after you do Orange Cassidy, right? But Darby should have absolutely been the first. I think it would have been much more interesting. Anyway, this leads us to Kris Statlander defeating Hikaru Shida. As you know, you all know my thoughts on Shida. I think a lot of people overrate her. Let's put it that way. However, I thought they had a good little match here. I thought they had a good little moment. You know, of course, I am super annoyed at Shida having a crisis of conscience for using her finisher. Like, and I know it's I know the tale, but why doesn't anyone want to hurt people anymore? Why doesn't anyone want to just, like, you know, win matches anymore? You know, there's always like, oh, why am I too violent? This bullshit. You know, like we were just saying, you know, I was just saying Adam Cole should be mad that he's not on the pay-per-view because he's missing a pay-per-view payday, right? Well, shouldn't Hikaru Shida, if she has the opportunity to end the match, use it? It's like, what? She doesn't want the winner's purse. She's not interested in it. Also, yeah, this shit annoys me. It really does, though, and it really takes me out of the match. I groan. But I thought this was pretty good. I gave it 3.25 stars. And then we had a post-match angle, in which Mercedes Moné and Camille come out to, you know, stoke the flames of the Mercedes Statlander match at Full Gear. Mercedes does, you know, she gets some sports team heat, and then she sends a one-armed Camille, who's, you know, because she's in a sling, into the ring to beat up on Statlander, but both Shida and Statlander are still in the ring. And yeah, you know, they're at odds, Camille and Mercedes now, and Camille sort of does it because she's a good little soldier. She doesn't want to do it, and then she just gets in the ring. She stands between both baby faces, and then it's just awkward. Then everyone just sort of stares at each other, and I'm like, someone do something. What do we do? Why is this awkward? Why is this stupid? Why is this stupid is a whole other question. But why are we doing this? Again, you know, it's like, what are we even doing here? Theme of the show. What are we even doing here? I don't understand. So she takes a swing at Mercedes, and then, of course, you know, Shida attacks. You know, she sticks up for Statlander, and this is probably setting up a match between Shida and Camille, if I base myself off of recent booking. Like, you can't take away that this is probably just a little granule that they've pulled up to justify a match, and that's fine. That's all. I'm all for it. But this is all so awkward. Like the build to this match, Moné versus Statlander, has been awful. Like, I really think it has been awful from top to bottom. It's been awkward. It hasn't been compelling. Is the match going to be good? They should have a good match. These two women should have a good match. I'm talking about the build. It should be more interesting than this. And I feel like it's just been wasted time on television on top of that. Just a waste of my time and of TV time. MVP is backstage with Shelton Benjamin, and they're looking for Swerve. They see a guy in a fur coat. He kind of looks like Swerve, and they attack him. It's not Swerve, so they attack him anyway. We get a video package for Jay White versus the Hangman, Adam Page, at the pay-per-view this weekend, and that is all that is mentioned about that, which is a shame because that's actually a super simple, well-built feud. I could have used a little beat down. That would have been a lot of fun. You know what? I'm of the opinion at this point that Jay White should beat Hangman again. Okay, I'm trying to say too many things at once. In the November Rain video, I really appreciate them putting New Japan footage of Jay White like landing the Blade Runner over and over and over again on Hangman Page, because the story here is that Jay White has his number, right? And they should continue that. Like, this would be the bold booking, but AEW is not to. Sometimes the bold booking patterns aren't exactly what they want to do, but the bold booking would be to have Jay White beat him again, so that Hangman just goes completely insane. Because Hangman right now in this current arc is great when he's nuts, but you have to poke him. You have to poke the bear. You got to keep at him. So if Jay White, I would be okay if they had a third match. And if Jay White beats him again, it sets him over the edge. And then they have a big, third match where it's like this huge stip or whatever. But Hangman is just like, he's completely out of control because he can't beat Jay White, and it's finally getting to him, and plants his leaves. Leaves his plants. Plants his leaves. I don't remember. Anyway, It is like this more unhinged Hangman, but you have to provoke him. I think that would be bold, and it would be good. It would be interesting. Continues to build Jay White in the meantime. And you know what? Here's the thing, Hangman Adam Page fans, I keep telling y'all, don't worry about the Hangman. If there is one pro wrestler in this entire company that you should not be worried about his push, about what they're going to do with him, don't worry about the Hangman. This is one guy who is fine. 100% fine. Don't worry about it. Bobby Lashley has this match. It's a squash match, a handicap match against Joe Keys, and Cheeseburger showing up in his Green Ranger gear. And it's a squash, as per expected. It's all right. It's fine. After the match, then Nana and Swerve Strickland set up a little thing to distract and ambush Bobby Lashley in the ring, where Swerve blindsides him with a chain around his fist, and use the Swerve stomp on him, and chain shots all around. The chain chain shots looked super protected. Like I get it. I know. You don't want people to really get hurt, but you also want the shit to look good, right? It's your job to make me feel stuff. And when I see that it's a little too fake, well, it takes me out. What do you want from me? This was fine. This is fine. This was well built. I think the Swerve Lashley stuff, Hurt Syndicate stuff, I think it's been tremendously well built. Renee Paquette is with Mariah May and Mina Shirakawa. They're setting up the champagne celebration at the Full Gear. And Mina's going to be there, and they're going to celebrate. But, they're, of course, Toni Storm is returning, right? Toni Storm just said she's retiring, which is fake, by the way. I hope no one bought into that. But it's not fake, but it's a work. I hope no one... Just reread her comments. There's nothing serious about what she's saying. Like, it's fine. So, they're going to play off this angle that Mariah May somehow never saw that Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa were tag teaming in Stardom recently. Like, just, 2 months ago? Less than 2 months ago. Somehow she didn't see that. All... This kind of stuff that, is just unbelievably not true, right? Yeah, she's gonna... Toni Storm is gonna show up and ruin this. And then Mina is gonna have to make a choice because it's gonna be... You all see how this is going this weekend, right? I don't have to... Anyway. Fine. Highlight of the evening, Claudio Castagnoli defeating Darby Allin. This fucking ruled. Like, it's just absolutely fucking ruled. It's exactly what you thought it would be. And it was tremendous. And Darby, does his little comebacks, but there's no point to it. Claudio's he's just a monster, and he's monstering it up. And I love the finish here where Claudio goes to commentary and he tells them to move, right? And then throws Darby over the desk. And then he grabs Darby, puts him on his shoulders or whatever the fuck. No, he puts him on the table, then climbs up on the table and gorilla presses Darby. And already then I'm like, this rules. But then he throws Darby all the way onto the timekeeper's table, right? And the table doesn't even fucking break. In an incredible spot. It's just an incredible spot. So Claudio thinks that he's won the match, gets back in the ring. He does he waits for the count out, but of course Darby is insane and not like us. So he gets back in the ring. And all it takes then to put him away is, a clobbering King Kong lariat, and that's it. Claudio gets the win. Love the finish. Love this match. Love the finish. I give it 4 stars. This was tremendous. This was the highlight. And anyone who said, oh, the crowd was not great, needs to watch this match. The crowd was into this. They were super into it. Why? Because it ruled. We're the best wrestle, and people are shocked that, you do your little segments, you do your little pre-tapes. We're going to talk about one in a second. And, it deflates the audience. But yet, in this place where the best wrestle, you put on a great wrestling match, people get excited, people get on their feet. Are we surprised? Are we shocked? No, we're not. Private parties with Renee Paquette backstage. She's doing a lot of work. She's doing a lot of heavy lifting because there's a lot of fucking backstage segments. And they talk about the match this weekend, and then this just leads to a Costco guy's jump scare. Didn't need to see that. Then we cut to some vacant lot, and there's a vagrant sitting there, and a car pulls up, and it's MJF who gets out. Again, working remotely. He insults the hobo, the beggar, what do you call it? And then he sits on his car and talks about Roderick Strong and brings up the incidents of Roddy's family history and so on and so forth. And all right, it's fine. It's fine, but Max has felt very detached from AEW. When I tell you the stars are not there. Max may have been showing up with these reaction shots that were all taped in one afternoon, wherever the fuck he is, right? They taped like 4 weeks of it, the masseuse thing, and then the reactions to Cole winning, and the phone call, and the reaction to Cole losing. Those were all taped in one day, and they were just like, here you go. So he can do whatever the fuck he is, whatever the fuck he's doing. And the same with the car deal. They all did that in one 6-hour stint. They were all cleared. So he felt detached. He's been detached from the show. We don't feel the MJF investment right now. He's not really part of the show. Going to be there this weekend, but for the meantime, it's like, okay, whatever. Then we get the Costco guys again. Cutting a promo that sounds like one of their TikToks, and who gives a shit? Oh, the big announcement was that they announced that the Rizzler was going to be there. The Rizzler was going to be at Full Gear, and he was going to ring the bell. They're going to put the ring bell hammer in the hands of the Rizzler, an 8-year-old child. This is what we're doing. This is it. This is the thing. An 8-year-old child called the Rizzler. Okay, let that sink into your brain for a second. Whose job is just to mug on camera. Like he's flirting with women, and he's 8 years old. Right. This is the concept. 8-year-old child who's got game. That's essentially it. And somehow this broke everyone's mind, and people are like, yes, the Rizzler's going to be there. I'm like, fucking Christ. Tony Schiavone is with Roderick Strong, and Rod. Look, I was saying earlier, you can't, about Orange Cassidy, I'm going to apply the same to Roderick Strong. You will never be able to accuse Roderick Strong of being a great promo. And content was good. It's just Rod. It's not what he does. What he does is he wrestles, and he wrestles real good. That's what Roderick Strong is. So, basically he brushes off MJF trying to be edgy and talking about his family incident. He's like, oh, it's not as, what did he say? He said something to the effect that, oh, great, you sent me back to the days where I was in elementary school. Like, big deal. I've heard it all at this point, essentially. Yes, I'm trailer trash. What do you want from me? Whatever. And then we get another segment. And this time, it's the follow-up to Matt Menard and Daniel Garcia tying Jack Perry to the scapegoat bus and driving off. Now we see what they do with them. They park him into some garage, somewhere, and they tie him up and they're torturing him. They're throwing water in his face, and I'm like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? This is so cringe. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, what? I'm uncomfortable watching this, not because of the content. It's just like, this is so try hard. This is like, this is what they're doing? They want the AEW fans to say, this is cinema? Is this what we want? Is this what we want to be able to say, this is cinema? The other guys, rent out an entire football field to have two guys go and talk on it, and then it's cinema. Then we're going to do this and it's cinema. They want to do like a phony Reservoir Dogs, situation. Is this what we're doing here? It's so awful. It's so cringe. And this was bad. This is, I don't know why. What is the level of entertainment here? Now, I saw a lot of horny people about it, but as you know, this is a Stop Gooning podcast here. That's what we do here. It's a Stop Gooning podcast. So I look at this does nothing for me. It doesn't get me more hype for the match. It only gets me more hype for Daniel Garcia finally. It gets me more hype for Daniel Garcia losing to Jack Perry at Full Gear, but then winning the Continental Classic. I tell you, mark my words on this. If Daniel Garcia loses to Jack Perry and he's booked in the Continental Classic, Daniel Garcia is winning the Continental Classic this year. Mark my fucking words. The good thing Daniel Garcia didn't sign with WWE and go to NXT to do silly skits with Tony D'Angelo, right? Right. We sure dodged a bullet there. Chris Jericho and Tomohiro Ishii. Again, what are we doing here? This doesn't amuse me. I don't think it's fun. I think it's kind of tedious and look, I understand Tomohiro Ishii doesn't speak, always looks angry and he's got a one-track mind and it's beating people up. That's fine, but Tomohiro Ishii is one of the best fucking pro wrestlers, the best workers of the past 10 years. And this is what we're doing with him, going around and just stalking Chris Jericho's like, all this to sign a contract. It's like, see, we could have had the full November Rain video. You see what I mean? At least we had another Julia Hart pre-tape. Those rule. Those are great. And she's going to be so fucking over when she gets back, right? Julia Hart is going to be a vibes wrestler. And it's tremendous. Because they're doing it right for this girl. They're really doing it right. And her next feud is going to be up with of course, with Jamie Hayter. They cleared up the idea that they cleared it up, right? Saying, that the weird interruption last week was not an accident, as it could happen on AEW TV. No, it was a planned thing. It was scripted, and they did another Jamie Hayter promo interruption again. Yeah, Julia Hart is going to get one of the biggest fucking pops when she returns on the show. She returns. They're doing good by her. And finally, we had the main event. Orange Cassidy defeated Wheeler Yuta. Look, this show didn't care about the matches. They cared more about the nonsense than the matches. So why? I'm not going to break this down. Besides, it was a very, very mid affair. Extremely mid. After the match, well, as preordained, the Death Riders come in and they beat up Orange Cassidy. They tape him up just to beat him up some more. And Mox gives him a knockout punch. And the conglomeration didn't come out to save him because Orange told him to stay behind. I thought the rest of the locker room would come. Where's the rest of the locker room, right? The army that was building up, with the top flight guys and the Dark Order and Dan Garcia wasn't away busy. Where's the rest of these people who were, dragging out their pipes and their nunchucks to sort of fight off the invaders here? Where were they? Orange Cassidy asked the conglomeration to stay behind. Where was Darby? You don't think Darby you don't think Darby wasn't able to recoup in time to come save? Everyone just let Orange Cassidy get the piss beat out of him. And after when the beating was done, then the conglomeration came out. They freed him. And the idea here is that Orange Cassidy stood up defiantly, put his hands in his pockets as Jon Moxley and company walked away, right? So, it's like, he's got an undefeatable spirit. I understand what they're doing. The execution isn't great. I understand. This is not a hard story to follow. I understand it. It's the execution that's not great. That's all. It's like that 1 year where, my first girlfriend baked me a cake and she had never baked a cake before. She for my birthday. So she's all happy. She brings the birthday cake over, surprises me with it. It looks awful. It looks terrible. Like she tried to do the layers thing. Her layers are all, how it's kind of tricky. They're like two or three. I don't remember. There's probably 3 cakes stacked on top of each other with icing between it. And, the outside of the cake is well, I didn't know at that point. The point is that first of all, she pulls it out and she did her best. Bless her. She wanted to surprise her boyfriend with a lovely birthday cake. So she cuts into it. She serves it. Cake is dry. The edge around the cake is burnt. It's too crispy because sometimes that happens. It's kind of, baking's a skill. So I understand what she did, what she was trying to do, make me happy, a little surprise, shower me with a little something out of the blue. It's like, look, I baked you a cake, and I was happy about it. Don't get me wrong. But then you dig into the cake, and the cake's not great. You're like, good job, baby. Thank you, darling. So it's the same thing here. I understand what they're doing, but the execution's not great. So ultimately, I can't like give it a thumbs up. I can't be sitting here going, yeah, this shit is great. It's not. Anyway, that's the review. Not a good show. We'll just wrap it up there. If you're listening to this on the Thursday, I'm going to be streaming later on tonight on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. Otherwise, leave a like on this video. 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, 5-star ratings on Spotify are tremendous. I'll be back. That's it. I'll be back tonight. Otherwise, more streaming next week. Join the YouTube channel. That way you won't miss out on a single thing. And then the Mr. Warren Hayes Show next week. And there'll also be a full gear review that will be out there. Will be available first for members of the YouTube channel. So become a member. I'll see you next time.